Hello, hello. How's it going, everybody? Is everything working today? Hopefully. I mean, one thing that's not working is for some reason my mixer display just stopped responding. So that's lovely. Oh, hopefully everything that you can see is working. We'll figure it out though. We do every week. So kind of an interesting stream today. Hey, that's working. Did we get the text? Did the text show up? Didn't show up, did it? Did it show up or not? The cat scratched my couch. Maybe not. Maybe they're doing something fine. Hey, there we go. Nice. Yeah, so interesting stream today. There is an RFC that Amr, who was on the stream 4 weeks ago now, put together. And there's a bit of like technical low-level stuff that goes into it and sort of is wrapping this whole package of an RFC. But the real interesting tidbit that I want to pull out and potentially dig into today is this adjustment and abstraction allows us to have multiple web views or other contexts, I guess you could call it. And what I've always kind of been personally interested in playing around with, not because I have a hard use case for it, but I think it would be really cool, is a Bevy app, which is a game engine built on top of Rust, or written in Rust, rendered with like wgpu, not actually rendered with web technology, and then layering a web view on top of it, and the web view or the web part of it act as like the UI layer that you might see in a game. So the HUD, or any other information that the user would want to see in regards to the game, the actual like game render is on effectively a separate layer. But even like multiple web views, I think could potentially be interesting. From like one immediate use case I could think of would be when somebody is first getting into the app, you could have an onboarding process that works as a second layer on top of it and sort of points to the different elements. That might be interesting to do. I suspect this is going to be one of those things that it seems cool, and we don't quite see all the possibilities until we allow or enable this to happen, and then we'll sort of see the creativity happen from there. But I definitely want to. I doubt we'll be able to completely get to it today, but I would love to be able to try a Bevy app and a web view in the same window. I'll go ahead and drop this RFC in the chat. And pop on over right here. There's a link to the rendered version here, which has the bulk of the content. There's a couple other like side discussions here that I don't think are going to be something that we want to dig into. Hey Chris, good to see you. There was another. Was the issue tracking issue? Maybe this is it. Yeah, so I think this is sort of the big. I mean, there's been a few of us on the team, I think, that have always kind of been interested in this, but this is sort of one of the catalysts, and it was run that one view inside of a wgpu application somehow. So one of the ways you can render a Bevy app or work with wgpu is to render it within a winit window, which is something that Tauri sort of uses. We'll dig into that a little bit. Yeah, and like we there was a bunch of like going back and forth of how we could potentially do this, but ultimately it was likely going to interesting. Yeah. Just all of the alternatives of the ways we could work with it didn't seem reasonable, or something that would scale in a way that we would want to like push that forward, and it sort of necessitated this tweak in architecture. I don't know if I would qualify this as an architecture change. More of just a tweak. It's the thing is though that it's sort of like a foundational tweak that trickles out. So I think there is actually a mention, RFC. There's a couple of mentions of like other projects that are built on top of Rye, which would potentially be affected by this. I'm not seeing it now though. But this is all linked in here. I don't think there's too much more to dig into now. At least on this issue, I don't think there's anything else to dig into. And the other caveat here too is that they have a successful result. And they did an initial implementation for Windows, which happens to be what we're streaming on. And they did it upstream. Well, is it upstream? Crab Nebula is a consulting company that there's a handful of people within the Tauri team that are employed by and work for Crab Nebula. So there's kind of a tight knit, like Crab Nebula, the things they're working on and the things they're consulting on tend to cross over with Tauri quite a bit, and ideally benefit the greater community. And this is one of those cases where they did something within the Crab Nebula Rye repository for, I think it was a client, yeah, contracted. And now it feels like it's something worth pushing up into the main repo. So this is kind of where guide level explanation. This is a little bit lower level than you might be used to seeing within, if you're working with Tauri. There's some proposals, but I think that the important bit here is probably, is it this? Nope, here. Oh, okay, so it's the reference level explanation. Yeah. So there's two things that this is proposing. Initialize a web view directly in a handle that you pass, or as a child in the past window handle. And like this is the important bit here. And the window handle is also how I think Bevy uses that. Don't quote me on that. But the anything to render needs at some level like a handle to the window to like draw to it somehow. So there's something getting that handle and then working out from there. And it's just like how, at what level are you exposed to that thing happening. But this I think this is the important bit here. And a lot of this is happening at the moment in the within Rye. So Rye was built with an expectation around the window. And we, which I think from here, it probably makes sense to poke around with how Tauri is set up in the architecture. So there's Tau, which is the window. That's like the Chrome, the outside, with the native web handle, or the native handles for like the window. I guess this doesn't have like the traditional file menu on Windows. I don't really have any. Ironically, here, okay, here's StreamerBot. There is no. I guess that one doesn't really have the traditional window handles either. Ironically, every window that I have open doesn't have any of the classic window handles. It's kind of funny. So it's like the file menu on Windows. I guess you get the same, that like top menu within Mac. And then within that window, you get a handle to that window, and Rye attaches to that window. Rye is the part that handles the web view. So that's the integration with on Windows, it's WebView too. And there's been some work Tau was originally built off of a fork of Winit for a few. There was a few reasons, but I think the main gist of it is that the things that we wanted or felt were needed for the windowing library were not in Winit, and it wasn't Winit wasn't prepared to implement those in a way that made sense for Tauri. So we did sort of like a soft fork, and things have evolved, and it's getting to the point where I think there was a mention maybe in this issue. I think it might be in this issue that Rye can now work with like a normal Winit window. Part of that is due to a library. Oh, I thought we mentioned it in here. There's a library called Mudo, which is the menu utilities something. For desktop applications. And that crate, as I understand it, is something that's going to help bring parity between Tau and Winit. So I'm not sure what the future is for Tau itself. But the important part is that Winit and Tau have converged enough where Rye then ends up working with or expecting a window handle in a very, very similar fashion to these other integrations, like eGUI, or I think Bevy is using, I think default Bevy uses Winit as well. So we're working on all these lower level pieces here. We are talking about the WebView Rye, and we're talking about the window Tau or other. And eventually, if this settles, it makes sense. Whenever it might happen, this would then trickle up to and probably be exposed within Tauri in some way. From there, what can we dig into? I suspect we can probably just try seeing if we can run something like this. So there's this raw window handle crate. I haven't actually looked at this. So we're starting to get into pieces that I'm less familiar with or haven't looked into off stream. Okay, standard types for accessing a Windows platform-specific raw window handle. And this seems to be sort of that important bit, the common interface. So, raw window handle. There are two groups of window handles. There's the raw window handle crate, and that handles Mac, Windows, and Linux. And then GTK. So GTK is or the GTK types are sort of as I'm understanding, a superset on top of this like raw window handle. Because this also supports Linux X11 platforms. But GTK also is Wayland. And I suspect there's other... Linux is just such a rabbit hole. Nice, yeah. John, giving Chris a shout. Definitely, if you are interested in Rust, and especially if you come from a background in JavaScript or TypeScript, Chris does a bunch of videos on his channel. I don't even know if I can do a shout out in this. Can I do it here? Yeah. I guess it'll just show up like everything else. I do this. Does that? I mean, maybe. Might be as good as of a shout out as I can get. That's YouTube native. But they run a YouTube channel and a site called Rust Adventures. And is Rust Adventure? I can never remember if there's an S. I'm sorry, I'm a bad shill. Not really a shill, but you know. Adventures. I'm also like slightly sleep deprived because I was also up kind of late playing games with Chris. Rust Adventure, no S. Yeah, check it out. I've gone through a few courses, and speaking of bevy, pretty much everything bevy related, I've learned from Chris. Chris is in the bevy world and does videos both here and on their YouTube channel. So if we do end up experimenting with Webviews on top of WGPU rendered apps, specifically bevy, I might end up stealing one of the implementations that I did following along the workshop that Chris put together. I've done 2048. I don't think I've done the snake one, but both of these are bevy apps, so those could be something that we could potentially, you know, we'll pull in the final output, see the whole build process, sign up for their workshops. Okay. So, we, at least at the moment, care less about the GTK handle, and this embedded web view sort of POC, I guess, works with Windows. So we're mostly going to be looking at this raw window handle, and if we look at this commit, the raw window handle was the one crate that they pulled in. And I think the bulk of the... Oh, there is a web view too. Okay. So we might end up just grabbing this repo and seeing if we can run it. That might make the most sense. The web view handle, new GTK. Yeah, so this is the current behavior, and it initializes the web view directly in the past handle. So like this handshake happens, but it's just happening automatically without any or with like expectations in place. And the main change would be then allowing being able to grab and use that window handle to then render another web view. So I think I just remembered I made some hot chocolate. It's getting to fall time. It's that kind of weather here. Actually, it's pretty nice today. I'm up in Wisconsin, and we've had some chilly days. It felt like a good time to have some hot chocolate, but then it's gonna be like high 60s today, I think. So whatever, we're having hot chocolate. Let me go grab it. Also, repping the Christmas cup. Here, I gotta show the other side. Well, try not to spill. I'm rushing Christmas and winter. I enjoy winter. I'm playing in the snow. I don't enjoy all the other work and stuff that comes with cleaning up all the mess that is snow. So I don't want to rush it too much. Anyways, all right. So I think what we do is let's try to get a default like Rye thing running. Where would be a good place to? I guess we just go to Rye. Pretty sure there's an example that we could give a shot here. There's also more samples under the examples directory. So I think we're gonna clone this. I don't think I have it on this computer yet. And we'll probably just give one of these a run just to get a feel for and walk through the code on how a non Tauri sugar coated Rye implementation works. Yep. So Tauri is handling a lot of the like DevX user information deploying, publishing app type effort. So it's one thing to render a web view, it's another thing to get that window handle and render the web view within it. But shipping it and having a good experience around developing while trying to ship, that's what Tauri is doing. So we can pull this in and we could run it, and it's probably going to seem very similar, but we're going to have much less around like that DevX and upgrade process, shipping, bundling, all that stuff wouldn't be something that would be available, but that's fine because we're just testing out the low level pieces. All right. I don't think I've got any. Yeah, we just have the Tauri repo. Give that a little bit of bump. And let's go ahead and clone this repo. Where are you, button? All right, so the examples we can run using Cargo's got like a built-in what is that called? Optional? No, arg? What's the dash called? I can't remember. Option? That's what all the CLIs call it. A built-in option to run, make it easier to run examples. So if you've got a cargo or a Rust project using cargo, and you have an examples directory, it's got this like built-in helper to run these directly. So if we do run -x example multi-window, it's going to be running this one. Args, args. I mean, so like multi-window. No, run would be a command. I guess args. Slate distraction. What are they? Not Clippy. Let's just do cargo commands. General commands. Cargo run. Options. Package target selection. I guess options. Options. Yeah, optional. And then the values that you pass to the options are the args, I believe is, yeah, semantics. It is definitely semantics, but also I think it's important to, especially when I'm trying to have a conversation about it, I want to make sure I'm getting the right verbiage so as to like not be confusing just because I'm using the thing that people aren't potentially used to. Either way, we've got this -- multi-window that will run this example. Is it the same one? Yes, also important to be accurate. Yes. As accurate as we are able, at least. Multi-window. Create a new window. WebView builder. New window. So this is creating a bunch of windows. Nice stream. I should try to do this in Go. Like an app. About that. I've written some Go. I don't mind it. I definitely have a preference towards Rust. But that's a whole different conversation. I played around with Dart, Flutter. I've done little Go libraries. But I enjoy everything that Rust has to offer. Okay. And like the interop with Rust is really interesting for me too. The fact that Rust is sort of like trickling its way into like the Linux kernel and, Windows operating system. JavaScript, TypeScript tools, WASM, like it has a lot of unique ways you can integrate Rust into other code bases or other use cases, which is really nifty. Okay, I guess we just run the multi-window one. I don't know that there's going to be much that we will end up seeing, but multi-window. Let's just see. We'll give it a shot. And then we'll probably end up grabbing that other repo with that branch, I believe. Almost there. Kind of surprised it didn't have this ready running. All right. Okay, so we can open a new window. This is kind of in the same vein of, you can see there. It might be a little bit small, but you can see there's window 1, window 2. We also have another app that we made on stream that sort of does something in a similar vein. And this is a web view. We could do the inspect just like we would do in a normal Tauri app. We still get all the web view type things. So this styling is just, there's, well, you know, when you're testing out this lower level functionality, it doesn't necessarily need to be highly styled. You don't need to throw a whole ton of CSS at it as long as it's able to give us enough to test the functionality. So I think that makes sense. And if we look at this minimum example, do we have is that runnable? Hello world event? Yeah, that's this one. So we have our main function. We have a use Rye. Pull in a bunch of dependencies here. And this event loop is an interesting thing to keep in mind, because when we're looking at the new integration of the window handle, some apps or some like render things expect to sort of like control that event loop. Is it to make modular software? Could you expand on your question? I'm not quite sure what you are asking. So the event loop is something to kind of keep top of mind, because I believe only one thing can kind of hold on to that event loop. So if there's multiple things expecting to be able to control or have the main ownership of the event loop, that starts to make the integrations difficult. We set up the window. Window builder is coming from application window builder. And here we can see the event loop, and it's kind of like a while loop. It's just constantly ticking. And whenever we get events in that loop, then we're firing things off. So if we look at, we got a Rye application started when we hit the init, and then there's a window events for close, like GIMP, where you have many windows. Yeah, so that, I think that's probably the main use case for multiple windows. There's some software like what's a good example? So like within VS Code, you've got multiple windows, but they're all within like that same container, and you can't like I've got this to do tracking thing. There's not a way to like pop this, as far as I'm aware, there's not a way to like pop this out into a separate window that I could just like monitor separately. But that's still like attached to this context. You could open up a whole separate instance of VS Code and have two separate instances, but they're sort of disparate. In this example, they would kind of end up working the same because they're pointing to the same source code. But depending on how you're handling state, things might get kind of wonky. So multiple windows is likely going to be like an additional context, like take an internal thing, pop it out into a separate window to be able to like monitor it on the side, or like put it onto separate windows. So if I want this VS Code, I want to be able to focus on the code here, but then I want to throw something on a separate monitor to keep track of. Can't really do that right now, at least as far as I'm aware. So coming back to your example, GIMP has, when it opens up, it has like the main container window. If see if they have any screenshots. I'm pretty sure it still works this way. It's been a little bit since I used it. Look at tutorials maybe. We're not gonna get like an overview of it, are we? It's all these like very cropped photos. so like this color picker, this would be sort of a something that is outside of the main context, or that is outside of the main window. You still want to have that like context attached, because you're going to be moving a pointer around within the main window, and this should be updating and showing you an updated view of what your pixel is pointing at. So that's probably the main reason for multiple windows. But what we want to look at is what's multiple web views in the same window. So it's almost like layers, not in the same use case as like an image editing software package. But I guess maybe potentially. Okay, so that seems to be reasonably straightforward. We're starting up the event loop, and we are where's event loop? So Rye kind of handles and pulls in. I believe some of this stuff is like WebView Builder is exported through Tau. Don't quote me on that, but I think it is. And then we're rendering that web view directly in it. Okay, so from there, let's take a look at, let's go back to this guide level explanation. So we've got using raw Win32. Okay, so you can do a new window rather than us doing a window builder and attaching this event loop to it and attaching the web view to that window. We are instead creating this handle and attaching the reference. Is the reference? Yeah, that's probably the big piece of this. Here it's taking ownership of that window. Here it is a reference to that window handle. I'm presuming that's going to be the big piece that's like jumping out as this is the difference. We can use it as a reference. So we get a new, there's the like implementation part of it too, but the like internal types and whatnot to get it to match up with this raw window handle create type. It's funny though, I just realized the green is not being chroma keyed. Must be too dark. Okay, so we're gonna grab this initial implementation that it looks like Amr put together. This is on feature WebView branch. So we're gonna go ahead and grab this. If you are new to the stream, I organize my folders with the same folder structure as GitHub. And then I use where am I pointing here? Over there. There we go. All the way down on the bottom there. The prompt that I use, starship.rs, when given a path that matches, what I've set up, it converts it to GitHub. So if it's in a specific folder, then it like basically text replaces that first part of it as github.com. So then I have the same exact folder structure as GitHub does, clone everything in the same way. And on Windows, this, depending on the version of Windows Terminal, sometimes it ends up being clickable, sometimes it doesn't. Right now it's not. On Mac, it's clickable, which is handy. Either way, it's nice to be able to like keep the same folder structure, and then at the very least, I can just copy and paste to go directly to that repo. But we're gonna clone this, and then we're going to git checkout. I don't know, did they open it up as a, oh. GH. I think there's a way to, I guess I could just do git checkout. Git checkout, and let's grab that branch. There we go. If you this the setup, I'm glad I went through the effort to set it up. It's not as much effort as I would have expected it to. I think I've got links in here. So I use Starship, and this is new shell. And I'm programming on Windows at the moment, so it's using Windows Terminal. So if you wanted to check out any of those links, I'm pretty sure they are all still working. Fingers crossed. I do need to update that and add some more things there that I've since pulled in and am using. Okay, so we're on that branch. We should have, if we look at the last few commits, we've got the feature embedded Webviews. So we've got this commit. They made this change directly in the source. So if we would want to run this, I don't see anything directly in. Let's go ahead and open it. I don't see anything that's directly within the commit. So this is all specifically around the implementation, not actually like using it and running it. Windows inner embedded web view. So I think we're starting to get into less charted territory. I wouldn't call it uncharted, because they've definitely put a bunch of info here. But we might end up just grabbing an example and trying to adjust an example, because I'm not seeing anything else here that points to having an example that we could run. So let's go ahead and do that. If we look at the examples, the hello world, exactly like we were just looking at. I think we grabbed this and then we see if we can do multiple web views in here. We'll call it multi web view. Let's go ahead and check back on this. We have an event loop. We have a window builder that's coming from Rye. We are in the Rye crate currently. So we can probably use this embedded web view directly. GTK. So there's no like specific notes on this. Is more window. So you can use any windowing library. And here we can say here, see here, window is coming from Tau. Web view is coming from Rye. Application is, there you go. application is re-exported Tau APIs. So this is all Tau. And the WebView changes were all in source embedded WebView. So right now we're pulling from WebView Builder. So if we look at, I guess we can look at mod. And, well, actually let's do a search. WebView Builder. And we can check out the implementation. Come on. WebView Builder. I'm not seeing where it's defined here. Pub trait, implement, external. WebView Builder extension Windows for WebView Builder. Okay. Where are you defined? Here. Here we go. Here's a struct. And then if we look at what we have in embedded, again, this is just the implementation for, I mean, we can see right here, WebView 2. And there's much less going on here. There's a struct that refers to the attributes, which is pub WebView attributes. Here we've got embedded WebView attributes. It's pulling in some stuff from the WebView 2 and embedded WebView Builder. So this is our kind of our comparison. Embedded WebView would be the piece that is implementing the exact same. So if we would look back here, we have WebView Builder. That is again coming from here. I guess that, let's see, lib. So lib pulling in allow, extern. Here, pub mod WebView. And then there's a pub mod embedded WebView. So we also have an embedded WebView, and I'm guessing it's not going to be WebView Builder. There's going to be an embedded WebView Builder. So window builder, we get a window. So here we have a window. The window is tied to the event loop. Then we do a WebView builder new, and that takes a window. So if we instead do an embedded WebView builder, let's go ahead and save that. We should, get an error. And I'm hoping this is going to say mismatch types, raw window handle, found window. Okay, so it's expecting that raw window handle. We might need to adjust something on our window setup here. The question mark operator can only provide. I'm gonna try. Okay. So this is the bit that we need to dig into. Nice with Netflix. And that is coming from window builder. Window builder is coming from Tau. So let us. It says that Tau supports it, and I think as far as the most like recent stuff goes, I believe it does. I don't know if what we have re-exported here is gonna have it, so we might need to like pull in a different dependency of Tau. I guess we go to the docs. Where do we got? Docs.rs. Here we go, docs. So you needed an event loop. You do an event loop new, and then you have a window builder. And window builder. Once the window has been created, it'll generate different views. So can we say raw window? Is there anything with raw? Okay, Tau doesn't directly provide any methods for drawing on a window. It allows you to retrieve the raw handle of the window and display, which in turn allows you to create any of those, which can be used to render graphics. So one of the things that we can use that raw window handle is to render the web view. Or draw, I guess? Coming back around, semantics. I think it's draw. But it also says render graphics here. So. Interesting. Okay, so we want a raw window handle. And if we look at the struct, there's a raw window handle. There's some notes about platform specific. Returns a raw window handle. And this would be on, looks like maybe on window. So if we do window dot, what do we got? Available monitors, full screen, ID, request, redraw, request user attention. Try into. I'm definitely less familiar with reading docs.rs. So looking at like docs.rs and understanding like where it is in the hierarchy, I don't immediately grep that. Grok would be search. So like we've got this method or this function which returns a raw window handle, which is I believe the thing that we want. There's some trait implementations. Request, redraw. So these are methods on the window, and we can set some things, and then there's the trait implementations. So how do we work with that trait implementation? So there's an impl, has raw window handle. So do window new event loop. Interesting. Okay, window. Maybe if we don't use the window builder, what does that give us? I'll pull in both. So we're not blitzing what we originally had in here. And let's just go ahead and comment out this. So we have an event loop, and then if we do let window equals window new, take a reference to the event loop, then here it's just unwrapping it. Actually, let's what do we got? What is this giving us so far? That gives us a result of window and OS error. So that also gives us a window, which is what I thought that was. Yep, that is giving us the exact same. So window builder, I'm presuming, is very similar in that it is doing this, but it is also giving us a couple of these additional methods to build up the window with all of the options that we want set. So we can call new. So these are all the functions on impl window. Can we just call the has raw display handle? All right, we're going to use the window builder. Window.raw. Yes, as long as the trait is in scope. So why isn't it showing up in... Oh, probably because the trait isn't in scope. So if one would want the trait in scope, asking for a friend. If the trait isn't in scope, how would one get the trait in scope? I'm actually going to turn on the incognito here. This is unrelated, but click on the trait name in the docs, then use. So the trait implementation. Okay, so has raw window handle would be the trait. So I need to do raw window handle has. Do we do the raw window handle directly? Raw window handle dot has raw window handle. That is probably re-exported from Rye. Yeah, maybe. Or Tau. Is there a raw window? DPI error event keyboard monitor. I mean, it might not be just because it probably isn't, because this is still pretty new. So I'm guessing all the nice re-exporting hasn't happened yet. So now does that give us a... Do I need to do anything to it other than bring it in? Raw window handle. Okay. That build. Okay, window gives us a raw window handle. Now we got the embedded web view builder. And I think we then... Let's look at the error. Do we not need the question mark here anymore? Result. And then No method named raw window handle. Yeah, okay. So we need to do the question mark. That'll give us the raw window handle. And the question mark operator can only be applied to values that implement try. The trait is not implemented for embedded Rust view builder. I'm pretty sure this is. I was expecting the error to say that it is expecting a reference to the window handler based on this. So there's a window, and then we call the WebView new. In this case, we're using embedded WebView builder, which the embedded WebView builder is sort of the same implementation of the WebView builder, which I'm guessing is the same as WebView, just with additional helpers in there. Taking a reference to the event loop. Window implements has window handle. I wonder if I don't know if I'm gonna actually need it or not, but if I do has window handle. Unused import. Yeah, okay. Yeah, handle to window. So we're getting the raw window handle, and the embedded web view is consider removing the borrow. Oh, is it because of this? Ah, there we go. Oh. No method. Yeah, it's probably fine. What do we have implemented here? We have a URL. Right, it's just URL. Get the current URL of the web view. Wait. We need the builder. Okay, so it just has new and build. So let's do this. All right. We have something that seems like it might be runnable. Multi web view. Fingers crossed. We're getting the compile. Almost there. So this is going to give us a window that it contains a web view, but probably is not going to be. It's not going to load a URL. Oh, didn't. Oh, unused import. Web view to error. Operation aborted. Well, that's interesting. I'll take this out just because it doesn't seem to actually require it. Operation aborted. Process didn't exit successfully. Doesn't say anything about why. This is definitely giving us the result. Did it say where it exited? Exited code. All right. Let's do the. I'm assuming Rust. Was a Rust backtrace? It doesn't actually say anything about it. Why doesn't it like that? Cargo run example multi underscore web view. What? It's that's what it is, right? Rust backtrace. Yeah. Okay. So it is underscore. Equals 1. All right. We're not getting any additional help. It is entirely possible because we're doing these results. So we've got a build here. So if we take this out, let's just do an unwrap. Panics if the values aren't okay with it. Okay. There's like a we can unwrap or default. Here default is no. I want to do like I just want to throw a better error. So unwrap can actually give us, that's not really going to change anything, is it? Right? Okay, great. Webview 2 error, message operation aborted, panicking, unwrap failed. Some details are omitted. Do we do a full? Okay, on line here. On line 27. So it's failing on the embedded WebView builder unwrap. So when it tries to build, it's hitting an error. In this, so there should be a WebView new. Okay. So if we have a WebView new, and then we have a WebView new as child, there's a raw window handle and then a parent raw window handle. Oh, hey, look at that. That implements. Okay. We don't have any code in the examples. Lib. So exporting it. So I wonder if the expectation is, okay, using Tau. Window, GTK window. WebView new GTK. Okay. And that's what we did here. We've got, we want to pass reference to it, right? Expected raw window handle found. Interesting. WebView, embedded WebView. So we get our window. I'm presuming window is should be returning the raw window handle. And then WebView new. Is embedded WebView the new parent? I wonder if there's something with that like parent-child thing that I'm not quite catching on. So there's a raw 132 handle, Apple or AppKit on this window. Okay, so we have a WebView new. And we have a WebView new as child. And we have a raw window handle, and then we have a parent raw window handle. The parent raw window handle would be, I'm not sure what the parent. I'm not sure what this parent bit is, but I think that's the piece that I'm missing. A window handle for a particular windowing system. So we have a WebView builder. We have a WebView attributes. We have the embedded WebView. The embedded WebView has a few of the pieces. So I think it's this WebView new as child. New. I mean, there's really no notes of child within the embedded WebView. Let's take a look at the comments. What do we have as far as comments goes? I think most of this is just like implementation of those pieces. WebView new, set position, evaluate scripts. Yeah, all of this is like that actual implementation. Controller set theme. Okay. I don't see any comments in here that might be helpful for us. We could, though, process didn't successfully. What are we hitting? We're hitting operation aborted. Nope. Okay, so that's definitely interesting. I don't feel like it's actually giving us much to work with here. Download, clipboard, incognito, autoplay. So most of what we're working off of is we've got the builder. We can call new and then build. The parent is a raw window handle, so it's not taking a reference to the raw window handle. It is directly using it. We had successful results and aligned it with this. integrate a web view into a raw window. Yep. So this is theoretical. So what they're saying is a wgpu window would return a window, and then we could do the window raw window handle on it and pass it to the builder. We have an event loop and then a window. So if we just care about the window here, we'll take this little bit out. This would say raw window handle, that, and that. I think this is effectively in line with like the pseudocode, and that's what they've implemented. And this is definitely not running. Oh, 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 oh. There we go. I can't click or view anything there. But I think part of that is because the builder just doesn't have those attributes and stuff set. We could, I think we could quickly adjust that though. The builder for the normal web view has a new with transparent, with background, with autoplay. I think there's a with URL, right? I suspect we can copy and paste over the with URL. With IPC handler, with URL, and headers with URL. So the URL with the builder calling this. So if we would drop this in here, I think that will let us load the site. Oop, expected type. There we go. Self web view. This is coming from okay, self. All right. Okay, self. This would be the not the parent. The parent points to the raw window handle. So in this new, we're doing a self. Okay, so there's a web view attributes. Let's put these next to each other. On the right, nope, there we go. On the right is the embedded web view builder, the new stuff, and on the left is the existing implementation. We have a new, it's doing some work, and then it's calling OK self. We don't actually have a web view on here, but what we could do, I believe, is do something like this and like this. We will call it embedded web view, and this is going to be embedded web view attributes. Hopefully that default is defined, and then we also need to update our struct. Oh, ATRs. We interesting. Okay. Oh, it's calling default. Okay, we might be able to use ATRs then. We might not actually need to copy this over. ATRs. Don't know how much I care about the headers. So if that's not working, we can deal with it. URL parse should be returning this function should return result or option to accept. And it is, what is it returning? Found enum. I mean, expected that because of default return type. Mismatched types. It is doing a why is that mismatched types? Because the result. Is it not? Wait, is it not accept? An argument is missing. Found enum. So like, I feel like I'm missing something obvious here. Ample, embedded web view, public function new. Is it just self? Looks like you're you're a little late to the party. But we have a window. We happen to be doing. Oh no! Oh, where's the, here? Yeah, here we go. I'm poking around with your code. This is really cool. I lost my chat window. Here we go. My method is missing a return type. My method is missing return type. Which method? With URL is? Oh, yeah. I think I removed it actually. With URL. Yeah. I see. Okay. This was the bit. I should have just removed this. That is mismatch types. Found enum. It should return a result. And a web view. Got an impl new. So basically just kind of comparing to what we had originally in here and dropping in this one additional function onto the builder so we could render. We got the window rendering with the web view, and I was trying to render a single URL. If you don't need result, then remove. What do we have? What did we have before? With URL. We do an OK self here. And then a result. Oh, is it because I'm unwrapping? Alright, what is that giving me? Result. Enum. Which enum is it? Can I make a button to close the second window? So this is actually going to, it should be a single window. But yes, you can, if you're implementing multiple windows, you can like keep track of and like pass that around. So, slight digression works better. If you check out, which mostly is working here, we did this on stream. I might have a link to the original video in there too, but that allows you to click a button to create more windows, and from that same main window close any windows, because each of the windows that opens has the direction or decorations turned off, which means there's no like close button on it. So the only way you can close it would be from the main window clicking the close button. But what we're doing here is having multiple web views. So it'd be like having a render of Netflix on top of Google in the same window itself. Okay, so my method is missing a return type. With URL, it should return result. If you don't need result, then remove OK. I don't know what I need. I copied that directly, and I'm guessing it's because so my new here is returning, this is returning a self without any result. This is returning an, okay, so we're doing an OK self. That's okay, so that's the difference here. It doesn't need to do, this is expecting a result. This is not. So we don't need this as a result, correct? If you want to use that branch, you can just skip adding these methods and do this instead. I mean, if you got something else we can look at too, I'm totally down. The only reason I was adding this just so we could actually render something and potentially see the multiple web views happening. Let's build a web view builder new. This is what we have so far. I was throwing together a quick example, because it didn't seem like that commit had an example that was related to this specific feature. And the big difference was it didn't have with URL implemented. So I was going to throw that on there real quick to give that a shot. So you're specifically doing a web view builder new. View builder new. Can you change the handle after you instantiate it? If it's easier, I've got Discord up too, so if you want to DM me directly, code or a link or whatever too, we can link or go about looking at it that way too. All right, so let's go ahead and save. URL parse. So we should be able to then, this is giving us a result. So if we unwrap this, this is giving us an option, and headers none. And then I think we just need to return self here. There we go. Okay. So that was the bit. Now if we do multi-web view, embedded web view builder, I think we can do this now. And This also gives us a result. So I think some of this is like, oop. Oh, we got a result at the end. Okay. It just didn't render right away. Let's give that a run real quick. Forgot about Discord, yeah. Right. Okay, so after you do the builder, you can just edit them directly. Cool. All right. So we got the window. Whoop. Can you not? You can't actually inspect it. I was expecting that you'd be able to right click because it has a web view. That's a little bit confusing. Okay, so we can do a... Amr went ahead and sent me some code. We've got a embedded web view builder, new, and we are doing the window raw handle. We were trying to do this with URL and then build, but instead of trying to use this with URL, what we can say is give us the let mute builder, and then we can just mutate it directly, which would be builder dot. We're just gonna go ahead and copy and paste the rest of this because there's no point in me typing it out. It's probably created, but the width and height is 0. Ah, that would make sense to me. Yep. Okay. So the other way, what we're doing is we were setting up a builder, and we had functions on that. We had functions on the impl that allowed us to set each of these contexts. And we, using the chained syntax, we could specify all these variables. Alternatively, what we're doing here is, since those functions are not implemented on the impl, we create a builder, make it mutable so we can change it. We mutate that builder, and then we call build. So similar, just this API isn't quite as nice, and that's why you do the implement those functions for using it. Final API will have these builder methods. Yep, exactly. Here, let me boop. So let's go ahead and close. Let's try running that again. So these should be implemented once it eventually comes up. Oh, look at that. Now, what we have is we're setting the width and height and the X and Y. So we are specifically saying that this web view should be located within the window at this X and Y coordinates at this width and height. Additionally, visiting this URL. So what we can do now, multiple web views, should mean that we could say this one is 300. What happens if we have a grid of these? Now, I suspect we could do iters or something like that to make it quicker, but let's go ahead and just copy and paste this because I think it's just going to make it easier, especially if you aren't terribly familiar with Rust as I am. The compiler definitely needs to hold my hand quite a bit, or Amr in this case. We're visiting Google for all of these. Let's we're gonna go Tauri. We're gonna go, is it beta.tauri? we're gonna go, was it rustling? And we are gonna do, what else should we do? Cargo? Let's do cargo. Oh, not that cargo, not that cargo. Cargo, CLI. Sure, they're, okay, my typo threw it off. Cargo, CLI. The cargo book, yes please, cargo book. That will do it. Here. Okay, so we have a couple of URLs. And we're setting the width and height to 300 for all of them. So what we can do is we can say then 0 for this one. This one is going to be 0y and 300x. I'm guessing it's origin top left. Just straight up guess, but we will find out momentarily here. This is going to be 0 and 300, and this is going to be 300, 300. So this should give us a grid. Yeah, top left. Okay. We are doing a mute builder, and we're setting up a builder for the based off of the embedded WebView builder using that raw window handle. Right now I'm using the same names. What I'm gonna have to do is change all these so we get that's not gonna, nope, no, not two. That's gonna be one. I'm just gonna name them all like this. 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. Super simplistic. Definitely wouldn't actually do this, but also, you know, when are we gonna have multiple web views like this too? We're gonna let's do this. Okay, so now we have an event loop and a window. This window is giving us a window pulled in from Tau. We're using the window builder. From that window builder, since we pulled in the raw window handle trait, we have access to this raw window handle. The raw window handle is what the embedded WebView builder expects. Just because these impls don't have these methods implemented or the functions implemented, we're just mutating. And we've set up a builder 1, 2, 3, 4. Copy and paste, just straightforward. This should give us a grid of web views. I'm going to go ahead and stop that. And let's give it a run. Look at that. So now we've specifically we specified the size of these directly. So we've got a few things going on here that wouldn't really work if we were like shipping this code to production. Obviously the black around here would not be great. You can see that I've resized it and that doesn't actually resize properly. Because we specifically said this needs to be this height and width and at X and Y. So I think the more interesting implementation would be putting these on top of each other. In this case, these websites, I'm presuming, aren't set up in a way that we would be able to see like some transparency, see through one web view into the other one. We could probably try it here real quick, but it would just look like a single web view. Here with a grid with specifically positioned elements, we can see all of these web views showing up You know, but like this wouldn't be a good user experience. So, is there anything worth trying from here? I think what ends up being cool is we now have a raw window handle and we have our web view rendered. So let's try it quick. We can if we just throw these on top of each other. You can implement a system that resizes them when the parent is resized. Okay, with that probably would then, with this implementation, as I'm understanding it, you are taking a little bit more direct control of the windows yourself rather than, I guess, when we when we pull this method up into Tauri, yeah, I guess you'd still kind of have to take a little bit of control over how these things are rendering. So if you've got multiple things rendering in a single window, you're probably going to potentially, with helpers, have to handle like the resizing or how you want to position these elements. So you would then use that like a helper or implement a system to resize when the parent is resized. So if the window changes, then resize elements with non-hard-coded values. Okay, let's try putting these on top of each other. I'm guessing I don't think. Well, I presume that these websites have a default background of white, so we're not going to be able to like see through into another one. Yep. Depending on how the website's done, the browser will also like default to background white, but some of the like normalization CSS reset type things will just set a specific color background. So the use case of this is definitely questionable. There may be, let's see, could we? So if you do, somebody do an exclamation mark drop. We got a couple of 3D commands here. Oh, wrong way. Yeah, we got a couple of 3D commands. John dropped a few there we go. Thanks, John. That is a web view, or that's I guess technically it's a embedded Chromium, which is in the same vein at least. Speaking of semantics, not technically a web view. When we I think within OBS we specifically set the background to be, I'm looking here real quick. I think we can see this. Yep. So we set custom CSS and we're specifically setting transparency on the background color. So I don't know if I've got a good way to test. I thought maybe I could use that to test, because that has the expectation that obviously if it was not transparent, you wouldn't be able to see any of this. So I can't think of anything offhand that is written or programmed or coded in a way that we would expect some transparency to where we could see these multiple web views. One use case you can see for this is to use many different frameworks, React and Svelte for different parts. I think that thought might be something worth digging into a little bit. I don't know that the like architecture expectation around HTML, CSS, and JS is such that it has some expectation of you could potentially have multiple things rendering. Like you could theoretically run both Svelte and React on the same page already. You could have React or Svelte do the main nav, sidebar nav footer, and have React be the main container. When you're resizing the window, then each of these content sections, then they all flow based off of each other because they're all within the same container. I think that kind of functionality would begin to become pretty difficult if you were trying to implement these as multiple web views. Then you'd also have to implement it in a way where the top web view has a background that is transparent to allow you to see back to the main one. I could maybe see when you first open up an app, having a second web view to be like an overlay to show you, first time user, click here to go to this place, click here to go to this place type thing. But even still, like, the web already has some expectation around that type of functionality, and there's libraries. I'm pretty sure there's libraries to help you do that. It's probably easier just to do that. You implement it all into the same web view. The use case, though, that we had kind of talked about this when we originally started the stream here. Let's get some music on again. I think the use case that is strongest here is having a non-web view thing rendered alongside a web view. So using eGUI or using wgpu to render a scene, like a game or some sort of highly computational visual, might make sense to just completely skip the web view, render it directly, and then have the web view for the things that the web is very good at, taking content and laying it out and using the CSS in a very writing CSS it's a very rich and well developed way to style something. So taking each thing that you're putting in there and using its strongest attributes to eventually build up a piece or a view that the user will see, and using each of those strong suits to make that happen. So my personal background is in structural engineering. Before I went full-time developer, software developer, engineer, whatever the title is these days, I was doing structural engineering, and a lot of those programs to handle structural analysis, there's very heavy computation, there's visuals, because being able to see and visualize it is very helpful, but then there's a lot of content, values, tables, and the problem is that there isn't a good way to render all three of those in code that has each one of those as a strong suit. Being able to render, you can use WebGL. It works on the web. It's getting a lot better, but it's not amazing. It's not great. I mean, it's good. It's functional, but if you're getting into really advanced, highly visual things, you start wanting to, can we render directly rather than having to go through the web view? Heavy computational stuff, you don't really want to be doing that on the web view. So being able to have Rust at your disposal is really nice, because you could run that heavy computation like in the Rust backend. And then having the ability to use CSS to lay out and give a HUD and potentially multiple windows where you could say, I want to render this thing as a layer over the top of this. And once you start to dig into things, actually, no, I want to pop this out and look at it on the side. Having that just pop out in a separate window with its own web view. I haven't seen any program that can do that kind of thing. And that's what, to me, is very interesting personally. There's these like very complex use cases where we've had to choose when we're developing these kind of cases. We've got almost like a triad of things that we're considering, and you can pick one or two, do those really well, and then the third piece is always ends up suffering. So I think this is when we really get to the basis of it, it feels like this is potentially something where we could choose all three sides of the triangle and get three best use cases for all three pieces of that. And again, I think there's going to be, as this type of setup or architecture is enabled, I think there's going to be more interesting like creative use cases for it. And I could potentially see multiple web views coming into play. I just haven't personally thought of or heard of anybody put anything out there that feels like it's like it would be valuable to have multiple web views rendering it, like on top of each other. It always feels like something that we've already solved for with the expectation where we only have one web view or one, like browser window to render everything in, because the web's been around for so long that we've had to deal with that as the like architectural constraint. Actually, as I say that, thanks, Hammer. Super glad you stopped by. Appreciate your help always, and great work. If feel free to check them out. We did a stream with Armor, I think we said 4 weeks ago ish. They worked on Muda, right? We went through Muda stuff, I think, right? Gosh, memory is it's a thing that just right out of my brain these days, I feel like. But yeah, check out the work they're doing. But we also I'll link it again. So where did I put that? Comment on this RFC. Getting input from people and kind of poking at this and making sure that we've not missed any edge cases is very helpful. So if you've enjoyed this and this seems to be something that's going to be very valuable, emojis are always great. Even if that's the minimal interaction, it's a great thing. Put emoji in there. That's still some good indication that this is something that we should move forward with. Because it's always there's always going to be prioritizations that need to happen, and if there's not any indications that this is going to be something that's useful, it's going to be either deprioritized or doesn't make sense to do. Especially since this is something that's lower level and potentially has a greater effect on the broader Rust ecosystem. So, comments, edge cases we didn't think about. Any indication is always going to be very helpful. And I again, check out Amr. Appreciate what you do. Thanks for stopping by. So, okay, yeah. As I was saying, I haven't thought of any use cases that really make sense to me. I kind of wonder if I saw somebody talking about creating a browser which allows you to surf the web with multiple people. So sort of like multiplayer web surfing. that might actually be interesting. I could see other user cursors that view being implemented as a separate web view, because that would be like the main app. You'd be implementing the code that shows the cursor and does the multiplayer part of it, and then you're just also additionally rendering a web view below it that shows whatever page that you're on. So that I could see. That potentially makes sense to me as a use case for multiple web views. I think there's going to be, I think we're going to see some creative things. I'm definitely looking forward to it, and I would love if something like this landed, because and maybe we play around with this on a further stream, but if we could use this for rendering with a wgpu context, not webgpu, wgpu, so like render directly using like direct 3D or Vulkan, and have a web view over the top. I think that's a really interesting use case. If that's the only thing that we end up getting out of it, I personally still think this would be very valuable. So I don't think there's anything else that is going to be really worth diving into today. I think everything else that we've experimented with would, it's more like DX. This is POC type code. There's going to be like these edge cases that we intentionally didn't touch because, it doesn't make sense to handle those edge cases until this idea gets greenlit. I don't think there's really anything else that's worth going into. If you think of any other like interesting use cases, feel free to leave them in the comments, or drop them in this one of these issues or whatnot. I think that's going to be understanding the use cases and the edge cases is going to be helpful in implementing it if we end up moving forward with this. Otherwise, yeah, I think that's about it. This was really great. Thanks again for stopping by, Armor. I appreciate it, all of the questions and thoughts from everybody in the stream today, and feel free to, if you're watching the VOD, feel free to leave some comments below on potential use cases for this. We might dig into this further on future streams, potentially doing WGPU stuff. Like I said, yeah, Chris, yeah, you're welcome. And speaking of Chris, we might steal your 2048 output and see if we can render that, because I'm pretty sure I went through that. I'm pretty sure I already have, maybe not on this computer, but I'm pretty sure I have like the WASM output for that I could just drop in and we could look at it too. But next time, or future stream. Yeah, I'm not sure what we're gonna do next week. TBD. Maybe this again. We'll see. Yeah, I think that would be really cool. I know we've definitely talked about like having this as a thing. So I would love to experiment with that more. Yeah. All right. Cool. Next week we will figure it out. Feel free to do the YouTube things. We'll schedule the stream hopefully a little bit ahead of time so you see what we're gonna get into next week. I'll see you again next Tuesday. Have a great rest of the week. Button. Nice. Yeah, I appreciate that. We put all the effort and work into getting the 3D thing. We gotta make use of it. So, Bye.